Hi, I'm Nigel Saunders. Today I'm going to be answering questions from Bonsai Talk. I'm going to be working on trees and pots here in the Bonsai Zone. Ewan from Bonsai Talk and I have been asking each other 10 questions. So here's Ewan's questions for me.
Alright, first question to you, Nigel, is what is your first memory with bonsai?
I didn't really find bonsai. Bonsai kind of found me. About 26 years ago, we were given poinsettias as office decorations at work. I took good care of my poinsettia, and a little seedling started to sprout from the surface of the soil. As this little plant continued to grow in the pot, it started to look more and more like a little miniature tree. It started to get a woody trunk and some branches, and normally the poinsettias are taken away after Christmas, so I transplanted it from the poinsettia pot into its own nursery pot. Most of the poinsettias in the office died, but I kept mine growing really nicely. We were able to keep them if you wanted, and I did. The little tree in the pot started to grow larger and larger, and I thought, if it keeps growing like that, I'm not going to be able to fit it in my windowsill at work. I knew I had to prune my little tree, so I started looking around in the bookstore under the gardening section, and I found a book on bonsai. I had wanted to keep my little tree small, and finding this book on bonsai was just one of those life-changing moments where you realize that, well, there's other people in the world who want to keep their trees small also. I grew both the poinsettia and the little tree, which was a Ficus microcarpa, into bonsai trees. My original poinsettia lived to 20 years old, and then it got cold in the plant room one winter and it died. But I do have a cutting off my original one, which is here, and this is my Ficus microcarpa. I still have my original bonsai tree, and it's going into its 27th year now.
Second question, what do you get out of bonsai?
Ever since I was a kid, I was always into making models. And unlike bonsai trees, once the model's done, it sits on a shelf and collects dust and eventually gets broken. Not many things in life get better with age. Maybe wine, cheese, your wisdom. But most things, as they get older, start to fall apart and decay. When you're growing your bonsai trees, you hope that they get better and better the older they get. And usually they do. For me, bonsai is a creative hobby and something I can do till I become very, very old. Unlike my models here, bonsai trees are never finished. Bonsai for me is a journey. I enjoy every day. I don't have to have an old, mature-looking tree. I get just as much fun from starting trees from seeds. For me, growing bonsai is all about seeing those daily changes and taking care of your trees.
What are you most afraid of, and what is stopping you from doing it?
Zombies, the zombie apocalypse, definitely high on my list. With regard to bonsai, I'm not afraid of very much. I've pretty well gone through everything you can go through, the ups and downs, in bonsai over the last 25 years. My first 12 years of growing bonsai went quite well, and then that summer, in a period of about 2 days, I had boring insects come in and they killed about 60% of my collection in 2 days. They just drilled holes in the trunks. You could see little sawdust coming out of the holes. The leaves on the tree went limp, and then the trees were dead. So I've had that happen, and I didn't give up on bonsai because I lost 60% of my trees, but I still had 40% alive, so I took care of those. So I just kept on growing bonsai trees.
Imagine a life without bonsai. What would you have done instead?
Life without bonsai? I can't imagine such a thing. Over my life, I've had many hobbies. Bonsai has always been my number one hobby that I've always stuck to. But I've always been into building model airplanes, flying them, model rockets. I build 3 violins. I've restored cars, classic cars. I have a Porsche 911 that's sitting out back still. I built 3 violins, including this one. I made everything on this violin, including the chin rest, the fingerboard, and the pegs. I guess if I didn't have bonsai as a hobby, I would probably continue making violins. It's very challenging and something that I really enjoyed doing. So I would find some other hobby, that's for sure.
What kind of impact did you think that you have on the people watching you on YouTube?
I hope my bonsai channel inspires people to start their own trees and realize that it doesn't take a lot of money to grow a really nice bonsai. You can start your trees and you can slowly collect the tools and some nice pots as you develop and grow into the hobby. Before we get to questions 5 to 10, let's take a quick commercial break and we'll be right back. I hope you liked that little video. Julie and I both made one at the Toronto Car Show this year. So if you stick around to the end of the video, I'll show you some behind the scenes making of the movies, and I'll show you Julian's movie too.
What kind of tree do you have that hate and love relationship with?
That would have to be the desert rose. I can grow them, but as soon as I do any bonsai work to them, root pruning or top pruning, they always seem to die on me. I've killed 3 of them so far, and I've got to try another one. I think I can do it this time. I've been reading up on them. I can do it. So I'm going to start a new desert rose, and this time it's going to live, for sure.
What or whom made a huge impact on your journey with bonsai?
When I started out in bonsai, there was no internet to look up trees. I had to rely on books and people. So in the early days of my bonsai hobby, I relied on members of the bonsai club, and I looked through every book that was published on bonsai that I could lay my hands on. So I went to libraries, the bookstore, and one of the first books that really influenced me was Penjing, Worlds of Wonderment. This book is by Quinquang Zhao. Not only are there wonderful pictures in this book, but he goes into detail of how he makes everything, how he picks the rocks and cuts them, and how to compose your compositions. One of the things I realized with this book is that this author had his own style of Penjing. Developing your own style in any art form is something that develops. It's not something you're conscious of. Both Walter Paul and Nick Lentz are two artists that come to my mind that have their own unique style, and they do bonsai in their own way. Developing your own style comes from doing what you like to do and not from copying others.
What does the future hold to your bonsai trees when you are too old to take care of them?
Well, I hope to live to a nice ripe old age, but I know that day will come someday in the future. And I've seen, through the club, there's been a lot of the senior members have passed away. And I've seen trees, usually they get auctioned off. When someone passes away, they get auctioned off. And it doesn't necessarily go to the person who could take the best care of them. Sometimes it goes to the person who has the most money. So sometimes the people buy the tree and a month later it's dead. So before I pass away, I hope I have time to give them away for free to someone who is experienced in taking care of bonsai trees and someone who has the passion and the desire to develop the tree for the rest of their lifetime.
What's the most important lesson that you have learned over the last years?
One of the most important lessons I've learned over the last few years is that you shouldn't always be trying to make your tree look show perfect every day of the year. You've got to do your operation to the tree, and you've got to let the tree grow and recover, and then you can do another pruning operation to it. If you don't let the tree gain its strength, if you're always clipping and pruning it, keeping it a perfect size and shape, the tree will slowly get weaker and may eventually die. So over the last few years, I've learned to let my trees grow wild, prune them back, let them grow wild again, and prune them back, and follow this kind of a cycle. Clip and grow.
And for the last question, what do you think really makes the bonsai community grow?
I think for the bonsai community to grow, I think you've got to get rid of some people's attitudes that this tree will never be a bonsai, or this tree isn't good enough to be a bonsai, or don't bother starting trees from seeds, they'll never be a bonsai. I think people are trying to sell a Ferrari to people who just got their driver's license. I think bonsai nurseries and clubs need to start at a basic level and develop the person and the tree together. So the person's skills will grow with their tree. So if you start with a young tree, like a seedling or a cutting, you can grow with that cutting to a ripe old age. You'll get to know that tree as you grow and as your skills grow. You don't want to hand a expensive tree that's been dug up from the mountains to an inexperienced person, even if they have all the money in the world. I think that's part of what's killing the hobby, is that everything you see, shows and magazines and videos, they all have these out of touch trees, out of reach trees that are $1,000, and trees that you may never own or may never want to own. They're basically collector's trees, and I think this is stopping a lot of people from getting into the hobby. They'll get the attitude that, well, my tree doesn't measure up to these people's trees, or my tree isn't good enough. It doesn't look like anything compared to a masterpiece tree. And I think that is the wrong attitude. I think you should encourage the people to develop to the best of their ability the trees that they have. So it's not about the product in the end, it's about the experience, the growing experience. So you have to have fun and enjoyment growing your trees and shaping your trees. It's not about what your tree looks like or what it will look like or how many years do I have to live to make my tree look showable. It's just about enjoying every day, watering your trees, taking care of them, enjoying the sunshine. Don't think about how many years you have left to live or what my tree looks like. My tree's no masterpiece, but it shouldn't stop you from enjoying your tree and taking care of it. That's it for Johan's 10 questions from his YouTube channel, Bonsai Talk. I'll put the link to his channel in the description below. So let's go now to the Toronto International Car Show for the making of Julian's Bullet movie.
3, 2, 1, action. Mean look. There you go. Do it. Perfect. 3, 2, 1, action. You gotta do that pose. Great. Now you got secure. That's gonna be in about 3, 2, 1. I just want you to give me a little bit of motion in that wheel, okay? So just turn it a tiny bit. 3, 2, 1, action. Perfect. Now you're going to give me a hard right, left turn on that wheel. 3, 2, 1, action. Now we're going to grab that stick shift. Yep, when I say action, I want you to go forwards, backwards, forwards, and back. Okay?
Ano pala, doon parang tinatrain ka pala, pagsakay mo dyan,
Just
doon na
like
yung...
that. Look at that view right here. Do you see that camera in the back seat? Straight forward. Thank you. Alright, when I say action, what I want you to do is put that up over your shoulders. The bottom part behind you. Yep. And then you're going to walk towards me past the camera. So it's going to be like action. Watch it. So we're action. Okay. Make sure you lock right as I say action, which is going to be 3, 2, 1, action.